It's Saturday morning, 1071 WTJN. Saturday morning programming is brought to you by Outlook Financial Center. With me this morning is Mayor Michael Beamish for the Mayor's Report.
It's a wonderful day in Troy, Ohio.
Absolutely. It's been a big week. It's been a busy week. It's been a sad week, too.
It sure has. I mean, we lost one of the great leaders in the Troy community for many years. Mayor Pete Jenkins served as mayor of this community and did a lot of great things. And he passed away this past week, and he was honored, as he should be, for his service to this great community.
Absolutely. And flags were at half-staff as well on Wednesday.
Yes, we did that to show our respect and certainly show our care and love for a great mayor of Troy by lowering the flags to half-staff on the day of his funeral service.
Now, when I think of Mayor Pete Jenkins most recently, which was a little over a year ago, you had taken him down to Treasure Island to see the progress that was going on down there, and he had a smile ear to ear.
Wasn't that a wonderful day? He got a chance to get out, see some of the improvements and the things that have transpired from his days as mayor, and we went by his house. We did go down to Treasure Island. He was so proud to be able to see the developments that were going on in Troy, and it's things that he was a part of early on. So that is a memory, and it was a wonderful thing that was able to be done. And I do know I'm going to give a thank you to Greg Taylor for making that all happen. He had the van possibilities, and yes, that's a good memory, that right there.
To be able to see, like you said, the progress and how Troy has moved forward.
That's right.
And
council this past meeting, they did pass a memoriam for Peter Jenkins, and that'll go in the archives of history, and the copy obviously goes to the family as well.
All right. Well, we made it through Thanksgiving Thursday, gobbled up on all the food, whether you had turkey or not.
Well, you know, I was saying Thanksgiving is like Thanks-living in Troy, Ohio, USA. When we do have a chance to look and count our blessings, we in Troy are very fortunate, and we had Grand Illumination. Thank you, Clint.
Oh,
tell what you did.
We got you up on stage, and we kind of warm up the crowd a little bit. I wasn't doing soft shoe or anything this year, but great crowd in downtown Troy.
Always.
Whether the weather is nice or not, it's all about having that crowd downtown. Santa Claus coming in on the fire truck, and on with the night before, or the month before Christmas, not the night before Christmas. You always do a fabulous job with that. I love to hear how it changes.
It does change every year to fit the need, and of course the first gift of Christmas this year was a gift from Mr. Fred Young, and really we also had an opportunity to talk about how that tree started.
I was going to say that was a little sapling, wasn't it?
A little Arbor Day sapling from Chris King, donated, grew into the tree that we have now in our city.
Now is when I think of Arbor Day, I think of Johnny Appleseed.
Oh boy!
And now, was that tree part of the program when you were playing Johnny Appleseed?
Well, we've been doing Arbor Days for a long time,
right?
But that's a whole different world. That was in the early 70s. And
oh, okay.
I got a chance to be Johnny Appleseed, and we did plant the apple orchard. That's a whole different story later on that we can talk about if you're so inclined. But
well, how old is the tree then? When did they plant it as a sapling?
Because he had to be in the 70s.
Planted in his grandparents' front yard.
to see it grow to be the first gift of Christmas here in downtown Troy is phenomenal. The history of that is just wonderful.
It starts and ends right here.
It's just
where it happens.
It's a great holiday story, Christmas story.
Absolutely. And, of course, Santa Claus, and then he does the magic dust and the tree lights, and then all the kids.
Oh, and then they all line up at the Santa house.
That's right.
I mean, when I say line up, the lines are always long, and Santa will be there to greet them. And he has a schedule that's going to go through this Christmas holiday season, and it really does start even this weekend. He will be here on this day, Saturday, the 24th. He'll be here from 12 to 2, and then again on 4 to 7. And then he's going to come back on Sunday of this week on the 25th from 3 to 6. So if people are so inclined, but that's not the only time Santa's around downtown Troy.
Well, he'll be here through Christmas,
right,
or up to Christmas, and the hours are posted for the Santa house, not only outside the Santa house, but also online. Main Street has them posted,
right,
and we've shared that post on our Facebook page as well.
You know, 'tis the season.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season of joy. 'Tis the season of giving, and 'tis the season to count our blessings.
Absolutely.
And, I got to add another thing. We're talking about this weekend. I want to add that the Troy Skating Club is also joining in the holiday fun. They're going to have a skating exhibition, and I believe it'll be from 4:30 to 6 o'clock, and it'll be at the Hobart Arena. It's free to the public. And so, you know, it's a chance for us to see some of our local skaters, regional skaters, put on a little show to get us into that spirit and keep us into that spirit that we all created this past week.
Now, and that's something that the skate club has been doing for quite some time, too.
That is true. It's a family-oriented, fun evening, so I encourage people to go out and support our local skating club.
See, I wasn't kidding when I said last week was a big week, and it's going to be big for us here in Troy all the way up until Christmas. You said 'tis the season, and something else popped into my head as soon as you said 'tis the season. 'Tis the season to get out the rake, because the leaves are down. They're in the yards for sure. Leaf pickup is going on in town, so folks need to get those leaves raked out to the street, and they'll be around to pick them up.
We haven't had many of those opportunities to rake those leaves out to the street, but the crews are still out. I know we'll have to have another round because the leaves fell late, as they have been in the last future years. Also, if you remember, not long ago we had an ice storm, and a lot of branches came down. And so we also ask our street crews if people would be kind enough to take those larger limbs out to the street. When they do their pickups, they will try to pick up those large items, at least until the middle of December, in which case we'll still ask people to bundle them up whenever possible. It's easier to pick up, to bundle them up, put them away from the leaf piles.
Right, you don't want to mix those two.
You don't want to mix them. So we have those two things going for us right now: brush pickup, limb pickup, and also leaf pickup. So separate those, as well as your trash and recycling going on a regular schedule.
Now, in this past week, we also saw our first kind of snow, slushy, ice, whatever that was. Just a reminder to folks, especially the weekday mornings, we've got buses still out running on the roads, and kids on their way to school. I still see kids riding their bikes, and of course they're out walking too. So when we get that weather, just slow down and keep an extra eye out for the kids.
And you mentioned buses. You know, there's been a lot to be said of cars passing buses with the red lights flashing. When you see those red lights flashing, somebody is being picked up.
Or dropped off.
Or dropped off. And so they're usually crossing streets where the buses are. So let's add that safety feature. When when you see the red lights flashing on the school buses, that's our indication to stop, wait until we make sure it's clear, and they'll turn their lights off once people are clear and safe. So between the leaves and the wetness and the red lights of the buses, we need to be extra cautious on those streets.
I try to be super extra cautious now, especially since, as we've seen across the U.S., when people not stopping for buses, and the kids have been hit. When I come up on that bus with the flashing lights, I kind of pull the nose of my vehicle into the other lane, so I'm somewhat blocking things, just so there's something else for folks to see, like you can't get through there.
Well, that's who you are, Clint. I know you care about everybody in this community, and you showcase the whole Troy Community Radio is based on, let's look at the good things we got in our community, and I thank you for that.
We got to keep these kids safe. There are future leaders.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of our leaders, was also a big week for council.
Wow. November 19th. Remember that day because we had 19 on the 19th pieces of legislation that were discussed and acted on. And that also included a couple of public hearings, a couple of presentations, the obviously resolution in memoriam for Mayor Pete. But let's just start. Elaine Herrick from the Office of the Ohio Secretary of State made an appearance and also a presentation in recognition of Troy being named as a best hometown in Troy, in Ohio. What I think is really great about that is 10 years ago we had that same distinction, so it's times 2 now, and it's my understanding there have only been 2 communities in the state that have received that distinction. So it was really an honor for her to be here, present that resolution from the state on our best hometown status, and that was really neat.
Well, it's something we already knew.
And
it is the best
we knew, and it's going to be out there
for everyone.
On the Grand Illumination Day. We also had that presentation made in front of all the people that were there. It also gave me an opportunity that day on the council. We haven't even gotten to the resolutions and ordinances, but it gave me a chance to introduce Joseph Graves, who is now the new president of the Troy Area Chamber of Commerce. Been in his office for about 2 weeks now. He's also the CEO of the Troy Development Council.
He's hard at it.
He's hard at it. His background, his expertise is in economic development efforts, and that has been our priority for a lot of years with council and this mayor and Mayor Pete as well. It's nice to introduce him to the public, and he'll be out and about. He's very hands-on. He wants people to come and shake his hand.
Super nice guy.
A super nice guy. I think he's going to be a good fit for a long tenure here in Troy, Ohio, USA. But we had 2 public hearings, which will move on to second readings, and one was to look at the Kettering Health Network's plan development, the total plan now, and that had no comments, pro or con. They just put that out there for people to see if they had questions, and there was none. The other one is the rezoning on Grant Street, going from an OR1 to an M2, which it was prior to the OR1. So there were no comments made there, but it was a public hearing, so it'll move on to a committee, and then they'll recommend to full council at a later date. They were listed on the agenda, but they'll move on. In fact, we had a couple of another one that went to a second reading, and that is to look at the whole funding picture of the Lincoln Community Center. Lincoln Community Center is a wonderful institution, been there for years. I think they have expansion plans, and part of those expansion plans is that they need to have ownership to that whole property area. And so funding from the city, which has been ongoing, was discussed, and they'll go back to a second reading, have a committee take another look at that to see what is it that the city should be doing in terms of in-kind services as well as financial services to help Lincoln Community Center move forward.
Gotcha.
Other than that, we had, like I said,
a lot.
19 resolutions, well, 11 resolutions and 8 ordinances, and most of these met with a 9-0 committee vote of council. And I want to say that because a lot of people think, oh, 9-0, they just rubber stamped, they just went through the motions. Well, that's not quite true. As we all know that have been a part of subcommittees, everybody is on a subcommittee, and they look at individual issues as a small group of council. And I will add that most of that time, almost all the members of council come to those subcommittee meetings to listen, ask questions, and so a lot of the work is done prior to the agenda items that you see on Troy City Council.
It's done in these subcommittees.
That's right, and questions are asked. Questions are asked of city staff. So answers are being given prior to their votes. And so when Mrs. President Baker asked, is there anybody on council that wants to speak? Then most of the time you don't hear that because they've already had their answers, their questions answered. So I want people to know that. In addition to that, is you hear a lot about suspending the rules. These are things, and rather than keep them going, you have the option, being a statutory city, to suspend the rules with a supermajority and then move to motion and adopt a piece of legislation. So when I say all these pieces are on the agenda and most went 9-0 vote, I want people to understand that that is a lot of work that's done prior to their vote. And they still have to acknowledge with a yay or a nay their intent individually. It's not a group, raise your hand. It's
well, you all are not meeting in chamber, and
right.
It's the first time you've heard what and you vote on it. There's been discussion, and like you said, the subcommittees on these.
And I won't go through all of it, but a lot of things deal with like our Main Street corridor project that's going to be way down. It's down the road, but you got to get started on that project. There's a Tabernacle Brewing Company. A lot of people know that's 214 West Main Street, the site of the old Lutheran Church area. They're asking for grant monies so that they can come into our community and be a contributor. And so we passed those. That was emergency pieces of legislation because of the timeliness of moving forward. We did talk about what we want to contribute to the Troy Development Council as our #1 priority, and that was passed, as well as Main Street. They do great things for downtown Troy, and we want to support them as a city, and council supports that. Recreation, Troy Rec, also another contributor to our young people here in the community, and we want to support that. The only thing that went to a second reading was to look at the support for Lincoln Community Center and just review that and see what direction we want to go. We had other things. Riverside, probably the two most discussed items recently is the Riverside project, because it does have a whole street project moving forward that includes a recreational trail and where that's going to be placed. It also had sewer hookups because the health department is asking those residents to hook up, and then that added to our past practices. If we asked people, or if we hook them up, then we ask them to join our community through annexation. And all those did pass 9-0 last night, all those pieces that go with the Riverside project. And then there was the moratorium downtown. trying to tis the season of giving. We want to have free parking. We know that it's across the board on what people think we should have in downtown, in the business district area. But we thought, well, we'll collect the data. We'll see where people do park during not only the Christmas holiday season, but even beyond. We're going to go into February.
Kind of the self-governing
Right.
rules still apply. Like if you're parked there for 3 days.
Thank you for mentioning that, Clint.
Right, the 72 hours.
There's a 72-hour limit. The gift of free parking is mainly to allow people to come in, shop, and then leave, and let other people come in and shop and leave. It's not to park the car for 72 hours or more.
Well, you call the Christmas tree our first gift of Christmas. The free parking is the second one this year.
That is, and I hope people will see that's just us trying to give due diligence, look for the best. We know we're not going to please everybody. It's just
that's impossible.
So what we're doing is using this time to collect the data. Who's parking where? How often are they parking? How long are they parking? And where are they parking? And then we'll collect that data so council can make a good decision about moving forward with the downtown parking issues. But we did also have as a component piece to that is there are the J-turns, people just driving and zipping.
Oh, I call those the U-ballers.
Yeah, well,
they just turn that thing around, and I've seen it so many times, and it scares me every time I see it.
And because we've done some things with streets to try to, we really do believe, and we're getting some feedback that's positive for safety reasons. We also have a line that we ask vehicles not to extend out into because it blocks that straight road.
Yes.
And so those two pieces, the J-turns and the extended line, extended vehicles, had a 9-0 support to amend those parking regulations. I'm trying to think. Most of the other areas are just were pretty routine. But there were 19 pieces of legislation on the agenda. Like I said, 3 of them moved to second readings. The rest of them were 9-0 votes, and I think I shared how that 9-0 is arrived at when they make that vote. They call roll call vote, so every council member has to state their vote publicly. So it's not like raise your hand or majority. So
it's not secret.
It's not secret. Everybody has to make a commitment based on their best understanding.
And I know you said it before, and I'm just going to reiterate it. And everyone who is voting, everyone who is on council, is a member of the Troy community.
That's right. Thank you for saying that again. I have shared that. They're elected to do their best due diligence to make the best decisions, but every decision that they make
affects them as well.
Yes, it affects them. So when they cast their vote, they're casting their vote not only as their belief for the community, but they will also abide by that vote too.
Gotcha. Well,
wow.
I think you and I need to go out and do some after Thanksgiving shopping, or maybe some raking.
I got some raking to do, but it is a good season. It's an exciting season. It's a joyous season, and so I hope families do things together. And certainly downtown's beautiful. Good place to just walk around.
Well,
but stop into the small businesses. They are there for a reason, and they're there to serve you.
For sure, and I say it every week, that those are your neighbors. They're your friends. They're your family. The people that own the stores right here in downtown Troy. It's what makes a community a community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Clint, for your contribution. David, thank you for the many times I see the camera crews out and about doing the highlight film for things that we're doing here in Troy. And David's a key player.
Well, it's about getting the information out to the community and keeping everyone well informed.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. This has been the Mayor's Report with Mayor Michael Beamish. I'm Clint Myers on 107.1.